And actually, a lot of what they just talked about this morning is going to be an opportunity for you to now push the thinking of the incredible organizations that are going to be coming up here during the Solutions Showcase. So we have 7 amazing organizations that are going to be showcasing their work around FLN this morning. And they have been hard at work preparing for today. These are going to move fast and furious. So when I say that, they've only got 6 minutes to tell you about their work. So they're going to do the really hard job of trying to be super concise, super intentional about what they share with you. So they are well prepared. It is your turn now to prepare. Okay, so I'd like you to understand what exactly is going to be your role in this innovation showcase. Now, yesterday, Ashti told us 3 C's that sort of underpin why we are here today. Does anyone remember any of those 3 C's? You can just shout it out if you remember. Oh, pop quiz, guys. Pop quiz, who's remembering? Connect, great, that's one. Collaborate, and? Contribute, thank you, amazing. Okay, so this is your chance to live number 2, contribute, okay? These guys are coming up here. They are going to share vulnerably about the work that they've been doing. Your role as a member of the audience is going to be to listen keenly and to give them the very important gift of feedback. Feedback is an incredible gift. All of these organizations are here not just to celebrate the great work that they've been doing and get lots of applause from you. They're here to get better. They're here to benefit from your wisdom and your insights about their work. So, after each one of their presentations, you're going to get a QR code, and we're going to ask you to give feedback to them on these particular questions. I want to go through them first because you're only going to have 2 minutes to do this between each presentation. So again, we're going to ask you to also go fast and furious to get this done. So very quickly, you're going to give feedback. Again, you'll just scan the QR code. The questions are going to come up. You'll just move through them quickly. Number 1, how clearly did the solution come through? How well do you feel like you understood within the context of 6 minutes? Let's be fair. But how clearly did the solution come through? How clearly did the impact come through? We heard before about how important it is to be able to say, this is not just a solution that I thought up in my head, but it's actually really creating transformational learning outcomes. How clearly did the scale-up plans come through? Is it sustainable to take this work to scale? What suggestions do you have for this organization? So what's your big idea, your burning question, the one big thing you want this organization to really think about? And then, how would you like to engage with them moving forward? Would you be interested in partnering with them? Do you have ways of sharing evidence from your work that you think they would benefit from? So giving them an insight into how you'd like to work together. And then again, any resources or support that you would like to offer. Okay? I know that's quite a few questions for 2 minutes, so we're going to ask you to go very fast, and you'll do this as we're moving from one organization to the next. Okay? So again, this is your opportunity. Maybe I'll add a 4th C, to be a critical friend to those organizations that are coming up here today. We're going to have 7 this morning, and then we'll have, again, another 7 that we'll be presenting this afternoon. We'll walk you through that as we go through the day. But again, as we move through these 7, I also want to remind you that after we break from this session, the organizations will be out here. We have sort of a marketplace set up. So if you do have more questions for them, you'd like to continue the conversation, as we break for tea, you'll pass through these doors and you'll have an opportunity to chat with them directly before you go and grab your tea. All right, I hope it's all clear. We're gonna get started and jump right in. Okay, so first we have Axium Education, and I'm gonna turn it over to Craig. Once you come up here, the clock starts ticking. Here we go. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Very excited to share with you about the Nobalisa, these young people that are powering a rural literacy revolution in South Africa. I came to this work as a disillusioned chemical engineer that fell in love with the rural classroom more than 20 years ago. And in South Africa, we have all the challenges of apartheid and colonialism that have resulted in a couple of statistics that stay with us, that are very stubborn. 4 out of 5 grade 4 children are not reading for meaning. 3 out of 5 young people are out of work, not in employment. And it's this combination that we see particularly in rural communities where classrooms are either overcrowded or schools are so small that there's multi-grading, that we see such potential to really transform things in new ways. South Africa also has an opportunity. 750,000 people are involved in public employment schemes. These schemes are an amazing opportunity, but they're currently unstructured, unfocused, and unsupported. And this presents us with an amazing opportunity to close the literacy gap. This brings me to the Nobalisa. These young people bring joy, bring smiles to young kids in rural classrooms. They also help children learn to read for meaning. And there really are 2 ways in which we see these opportunities. First of all, in a very structured program in grade reception through 3 program with 2 hours a week built into the school timetable, young children are learning to read in their mother tongue, isiXhosa, using a teaching at the right level approach, very structured materials and assessments. There's a second opportunity, though, in that these young people themselves receive a bunch of training and support, and which help them to take the next step in their own careers and pathways. Again, there are two sets of impact. We're currently working with about 5,500 children, and after 3 years in the program, these children are reading at about twice the level of children in comparable schools across the country. The second impact, of course, is on the youth themselves. And so we're employing a whole bunch of people, but after they leave us, around 71% of them are finding their next job or their next study opportunity. And it's young people like Nalucha for whom these statistics come alive for me. She has been with us for nearly 10 years. She is now leading the program into new communities across the province and is really an example of what these kinds of opportunities can do for young people. We're grounded in rural communities in South Africa. 90% of our team are drawn from those communities, but we're surrounded by a global set of partners for which we are very, very appreciative. And we're looking for partners in the room or perhaps outside the room who can really help us think about now how to take this training and coaching model to scale, how we can think about numeracy to add to literacy, and how we can think about measuring this in better and more efficient ways. Our vision is a national rural youth-powered literacy program embedded within the government system that each year enables 1 million children to read for meaning by the age of 10 and provides employment and skills to 35,000 young people. The invitation here is to help us scale what really is working. We obviously are looking for funding partners, but equally we're looking for thought partners who can really help us think about, and I've been just so inspired by what I've heard over the last couple of days, about how we can really start to become more cost effective. We have a very clear plan to get us to scale, but we need all of your help to get there. So thank you for your attention and for your curiosity, I guess, to stay with us, and look forward to getting your feedback. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Craig. A huge round of applause. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Rafida from Angaza Elimu. Let's give her a big round of applause. Amazing. Over to you.
Good morning. Yeah, I'd like you to think about something for a second. If you are a teacher and AI could give you a superpower, what could it be? Would you want it to spot a learner who is struggling before the end midterm or even the end year results? Or would you want an AI assistant that can lesson plan without tiring? Or maybe just explaining a math concept for the 10th time? So at Angaza Elimu, we are turning those teachers' dreams into a practical reality. According to the World Bank publications, we know that 9 out of 10 learners are not able to read at the expected level, and 8 out of 10 are not able to do basic math at the end of primary school. Well, that's a sobering reality, but a powerful reminder of why we need innovation in education more than ever. And in Kenya, we see teachers taking 40% of their time planning for these lessons. And this is, when it comes to now classes with very many learners, there's limited one-on-one instructions being provided to them, which then leads to them not being able to strengthen their foundational skills. And for us, we believe that to improve in learning outcome, then you must improve in teaching. So then we have our innovation called Kalamu Chatbot, an AI-powered teacher copilot, providing curriculum-aligned structured lesson guides to teachers, providing lesson insights to teachers by also highlighting which points they need to focus on for a learner who is not doing well. We are also providing them with coaching and feedback through the chat service, where they can then do self-reflections, and at the end of the day, they can receive that coaching. And lastly, teachers also are able to receive automated weekly discussion prompts that then they can use during their communities of practice to discuss about the things that they see are affecting them in class. So far we have been able to have 6,000 teachers actively engaging on the chat service, and this is saving them up to 3 hours of their time, which then they can use to focus on instruction. We have reached 661 schools, most of them being in the ASAL regions and the refugee camps, covering about 455K learners, and up to now, 127 learners are actively engaging with our personalized adaptive learning platform, which has then helped them improve by 32% in their learning outcome. Through the work we are doing with GSF, we've been able to develop monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning tools that can then help us for the next years rigorously study these learning outcomes. And currently we have extended our work in Rwanda with our headquarters in Kenya. Just to briefly go through some of the feedback that we have received from the schools. And one of the teachers in Miondoni says, Kalamu has changed how I teach. The step-by-step lesson support helps me reach every learner. And then another teacher at Bio Primary, even when I'm tired, Kalamu Chatbot helps me stay consistent. The learners enjoy the lessons more because I'm better prepared. It's so unfortunate you could not watch the video, but it's fine. So through strategic partnerships, we aim to reach 4.7 million learners across Africa and have them achieve mastery in literacy and numeracy by 2035. And for us to be able to get to this, we need to collaborate with schools. And this means that we are calling out for partnerships with governments to include our Kalamu Chatbot as a digital support tool in the FLN strategy, as well as collaborate with them on a system level where we can work with the curriculum support officers to extend instructional support and coaching to our teachers. Currently, we're also raising $2.5 million in funding that will help us, we will be able to utilize to strengthen our implementation model, which is generating evidence needed to determine how effective and efficient, or how cost-effective and efficient this will be as we look forward to scale this through the governments. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Critical Friends, for the feedback. And let's turn it over to the incredible team at Inspiring Teachers.
Thanks very much. So we're Inspiring Teachers, and we're an evidence-based nonprofit working in Uganda, Ghana, and Malawi. And we're going to be talking about new tools for old problems. So I'm Simon Graffi. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO. This is Dr. Labi Amanti, who's the program director in Ghana, and Charles, who leads our work in Uganda and his research. Also manages a lot of the research work. Over to you, Labi. Or, in fact, I'm next. Who's got the clicker? The clicker?
Slide.
Next slide, please. So we believe every child has a right to quality education.
And in Ghana, we've seen that about 80% of our learners cannot read by the age of 10. Why is that so? We are saying teaching is hard. The teacher needs to plan a good lesson. You need to assess and support and also manage these large classes.
At Inspiring Teachers, we believe that teachers deserve to be given the tools to succeed. So we give teachers everything they need to accelerate learning in their classrooms. Teacher guides that are ultra user-friendly, assessment tools that help them understand where their students are, and we also provide tools to support coaching. We call this package of tools, we provide Tools for Foundational Learning Improvement, or TFLI, and it combines structured pedagogy, targeted instruction, and it has a digital layer, which is all built around smartphones.
Yes, as indicated, with our product, teachers deliver an hour's lessons of science, reading based on the lessons each day, and that we find them in our structured teacher guides, which can also be found on the app. Each week, the teacher runs a whole class assessment and remediation exercise, whereby the teacher assesses, focuses on the skills taught, and in a week, gives the teacher a snapshot of the student's progress. Each term, too, they run a one-on-one oral reading assessment with every learner. First, the teacher has to pick the assessment that is going to conduct, and the next is to select the student. The student goes through the reading process, and everything is tracked on the Smart Coach app. Like we said, it takes only 2 minutes to do that. And when that is done, we would have the teacher complete the assessment through the ORF and then send the reports to the parents. And parents also have something that they will do, and that can also be found in the workbook. So at the end of the workbook, the report card is there, and parents are able to support their learners with whatever challenges identified. Teachers track the progress in the Smart Coach app, and the data flows to the dashboard so that the districts can also see whatever is going on, so that when needed, the support can also be provided. So the app gets the class list, and then the field staff also gets the insight on delivery and on the learning that needs to be supported.
In 56 low-fee schools in Central Region, as you can see in the dashboard there. So in 2025, we ran an RCT with 80 schools, 40 of them control and 40 of them treatment. And as a result of this, we generated 1,300 one-on-one EGRAs with basic 1 learners. We also had 160 classroom observations done with teachers. And as you can see, that's the team there. There's me and Labi, and that's the team that made it possible, the numerators. And this was done using our Smart Coach app to collect all this data. And we partnered with our JPAL affiliate researchers, Dr. Jason and Monica. So what did we find after 9 months of this? We realized that our treatment learners can decode twice as many words as the ones in the control group. We've highlighted non-word reading here for you because it's the marker of reading ability in most learners as you look at it in research. And this gives us an overall effect size of 0.5 standard deviation. We've also noticed that in our treatment group, there is 44% less non-readers than in the control groups. And as we can see in general, as we looked at research over time, this has put our RCT within the top 10% bracket of RCTs in terms of effect sizes.
Yes, so currently, we are co-delivering with the Ghana Education Service. And so, with the beginning of this academic year, 80 schools have been reached. And we started with them with the app and with everything that we do with our literacy program. The districts have the school support officers, which call them the CISOs. And these CISOs have been trained so that they can support with the facilitation and also guiding with whatever goes on in the schools. And so data flows through the schools and then back to the district so that it goes to the region for the necessary support and guidance as needs to be provided.
So Ghana Education Service have now asked us to expand the teacher-led assessments on Smart Coach to 5 more districts, which would bring them into 400 schools. I think Labi mentioned there are 80 government schools where the delivery is being led by Ghana Education Service, and then there's these 56 low-fee private schools, and in fact, the number of classrooms delivering the program in low-fee private schools just doubled because every year there's a new wave of classrooms coming on stream. But this is really just the beginning. And at Inspiring Teachers, our focus is now on getting scale ready. So we're on this journey. We've been transitioning from a lab. We're staying a lab, but we're focusing on getting scale ready. And for us, that means simplifying the program model, optimizing the tools, so getting that district-led delivery dashboard. I think Cleo spoke to the criticality of like middle-tier leadership of these programs, so really cracking that. Continuing with rigorous evaluations, we're going to be running another randomized control trial in government schools in partnership with GES, and we've been running A/B tests. And we're also working to shift the payer, because at the moment we fund the paper materials that go into schools. There's some cost sharing with Ghana Education Service, but we're looking to externalize all of the costs. Now, Ghana's central region is really just the beginning for this work. We mentioned our work in Uganda and Malawi, but structured pedagogy programs just got cancelled for 50 million children. And those programs were funded because they're basically the most important part of the education system, because they're when children build the skills they need to access all later learning, the ability to read. Together we can meet the moment, and this is where we're going. So we're working towards improving learning outcomes for 10 million children by 2035. And that's going to mean making a big shift in how we work, changing our doer, our payer, moving into national partnerships, and being a provider of a scalable platform of tools that enable government-led, large-scale structured pedagogy and assessment programs. So thank you for partnering with us, thanks for backing us, and thanks for sharing your ideas with us. Inspiring teachers.
That was 6 minutes with a margin of error.
Thank you, guys. And now I'm going to ask you to give your attention to Rob, who's representing Jackfruit Network. Rob, we'll hand it over to you. Take it away.
Morning, everyone. It is my favorite part of each year when I get to stand in front of everyone and give everyone here basically an update. Most of you, last time I spoke to you, would have known us as Jackfruit Finance, but we've rebranded and done a slightly bad job of it because I'm wearing the wrong branded logo today. But I'll kind of come on to why we've done that and give you guys a bit of a story about sort of where we've come from for those of you who have not heard me speak before. So ultimately, the Jackfruit Network, we're looking to elevate Africa's education ecosystem and become a network, not just Jackfruit Finance. So we kind of set out 4 years ago in 3 weeks to sort of focus on this piece first. So 1 in 3 kids on the continent going to low-fee private schools and a $2.5 billion funding gap for those schools. Now, ultimately, I am the CEO and co-founder, and I learned about this when I went to Uganda in 2019 to try and help an educational NGO send 80 kids to 2 schools. Now, I'm sure lots of people in this room have experienced how hard it is to find schools when you actually want to go on the ground and help those schools. And I had no idea. So I ended up visiting 300 schools all across eastern rural Uganda, trying to find 2 schools to send 80 kids to. So it was a wild experience for me. And then ultimately, all of those schools, or almost all of those schools, were low-income serving or low-fee private schools, which I had also never heard of. And none of them had been able to get traditional financing from banks. So naively, I thought that I'd be able to help those schools get financing and failed. And so in 2020, started Jackfruit Finance to try and sort of fundraise into us, use technology to basically help schools build classrooms, buy school buses, and Jackfruit Finance was basically born. So Jackfruit Finance is in the yellow. Like ultimately, we view banks as underserving schools, blocking affordable credit and growth, and we look to do calendar match loans, which is basically where the school only pays when they have revenue, so in the school term, to help them expand schools and improve educational outcomes. Now, we did that for a couple of years, and schools were constantly reporting back to us saying like, We don't know where to get good textbooks. We don't know where to get the ICT equipment that we need when they change the syllabus here, like we've got a bad school bus. So we started the Jackfruit Hub, and ultimately what that is looking to do is create a marketplace. So we work in a lot of schools now, and we were seeing the most disadvantaged schools paying the most for textbooks because it was like 2 distribution points between them and the textbook supplier, as an example. So we started the Jackfruit Hub last year to help schools access the best products in the marketplace, the most affordable prices, where we negotiated best products. And then we also started the Jackfruit Foundation. So we've worked with a number of the people in this room, and we want to work with many more of you, ultimately to use the network that we have, because we have 350 data points in every school we work in, to catalyze more of the innovations in this room to go into our schools. So we started the Jackfruit Foundation to sort of isolate that and remove that from the for-profit, which is Jackfruit Finance. I'm going to jump through that because I'm already running slow. So in 2021, we started. No one would fund us. We actually had to use my savings to lend to the first 10 schools, which was a pretty stressful experience. But fast forward to now, we're in 707 schools. We've mobilized $6 million of capital to those schools, which is something I am deeply proud of. We're an 83-person team based here in Kenya and Uganda, and we're looking to get to 5,000 schools by the end of 2028 and a long way beyond that. As I've touched on what we've done, so $6 million of cumulative loans, the hub has 500 products, and the foundation has done $1.6 million of grants through it into schools that we work in. This is the part that I wanted to pause on. So this is the stuff that we're really excited about internally. So obviously people have been talking about AI. AI is really how we view that we can bring more and more affordable credit to the schools we work in. And on top of that, we also want to be using the data, and I'll be talking about this tomorrow on a panel with people who are much more expert in this area than I am. But we really want to be using the AI component to help schools get better and help schools connect with the right innovations. So sort of adding on top of that as well. The other piece that is super exciting for us is results-linked loans. So there's always a big question mark when we lend to a school, are we actually creating impact outside of just bringing capital to those schools? And it's a totally fair question to ask. We've been working very closely with IDP Foundation and GSF and people like Waterloo Foundation to try and pilot result-linked loans. So we get funding, and our funders want us to create change in schools. And unless we connect that to the end user, so the school director, it's kind of unfair to ask them to make a change and not reward them for that change. So the whole idea with the results-linked loan, and it's an incredibly complicated piece, is we are asking the school director to make a change, and if they make that change, which is always to improve educational outcomes, then they get a reward. And I'm going to keep going, so onto the impact piece. So recently, we had a report published that 75% of Jackfruit schools report improved educational outcomes, and 66% of those schools increased student enrollment. The improved educational outcomes piece is still, honestly, the big piece that we are constantly wrestling with, and this is something that I would love to connect with people in this room who have suggestions on how to do it better. This was a 60 decibels report, and it was anecdotal evidence, so it's not perfect, or it's a long way from perfect. 82% of the schools we funded are female-owned and run, and 66% of the teachers are female in the schools we work in as well. Too many points to go through. I will finish just to bring this back to the actual school, our customer. So an average Jackfruit school has 303 students, 13 teachers, and has on average been in operation for 13 years, normally without getting traditional financing. Without traditional financing, they're having to turn to local microfinance, digital lenders. They strap things together. It takes 5 years to build a classroom. They never kit it out properly. So this is ultimately who we want to support. They are almost always profitable, which is the amazing thing, but they would never be able to tell you when you walk into a school. So the technology we've built basically digitizes the school and helps us to lend to them and bring them into the network. And I will finish there because I am over time already. But thank you all so much for listening. Ultimately, what we would love to do is connect with more of you, especially on the impact piece, the educational outcomes piece, and also the other piece is if you want to test in schools, especially in Kenya, the whole point of the network is to make it easier for people to do exactly that. So if you want to distribute your product, if you want to test in schools, if you want to learn, we've really started to help people to test their products, talking to the end user when they're in that product validation phase and just making it easier. We have 729 schools now spread all over Kenya, from $30 a term as a school fee price point to 200, urban, rural, peri-urban, etc. So we can really narrow it in and help you try and test and maximize your innovation. Thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone. I am Mayuresh.
And I'm Siddesh.
And today we are here to talk about our work and present some ideas to all of you guys. At Leadership for Equity, we work for the quality education improvement in public schools in India. We partner with governments to implement large-scale educational reforms. And today we are here to talk about one such large-scale reform, which is the FNL District Transformation Project. The story of LFE starts with our founder, and today we have Siddesh, our co-founder, who's going to talk about it in a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Mayuresh. For me, the journey started in a Teach for India classroom. I was welcomed into a class full of young learners, but it was I who learned a lot of life lessons from them. But I also learned to look at education from 3 clear perspectives. Learning to appreciate one child when she finally learned to read accurately and confidently. Learning to plan and execute for one classroom to see what it takes for me to, for the learning journey from academics and even to extracurriculars, and also appreciating the struggles as the school juggles resources and multiple roles to make learning real for every child every day. But I also realized that as the fellowship drew to a close, this is not sustainable. The future of millions of children in Indian schools cannot depend on a few motivated individuals. It's really the system that needs to be geared up for supporting every child, every teacher, every day. And that's where I set up Leadership for Equity with a founding team of people like Mayuresh. And we worked across many states. In fact, we spent more time in government offices than our own office. We worked with government officers. We really understood the nuances of how government programs worked. And what are the pitfalls and challenges and resource constraints that the officers, the middle tier officers faced, right? And based on all of this, we really understood the nuances of the wicked problem of education when you zoom out at scale. So let's zoom out at scale and see who are these learners in public schools in India. India, of course, is synonymous with scale, and we have got 121 million children enrolled in public schools, 73% of whom come from caste minorities, and they've been historically excluded from formal learning. 66% come from rural areas, 18% come from religious minorities, and almost half are girls. And this is really the overall makeup of public schools in India. And if we zoom in to see what this means at the level of a single child, typically a child is spending time in a multi-grade setting, grade 1 to grade 4 sitting in the same small room. And that means that the teacher is focused more on completing the syllabus rather than personalized support to the children. The teacher's job isn't easy either. The teacher is pulled into a lot of admin and data work, and that leaves a lot of fragmented time to teach, and nobody is coming regularly to visit them, observe them, support and coach and mentor them, and that makes it hard for them to incorporate newer teaching strategies. And even if you look and empathize a little bit with the system, right? It's one of many verticals. There are infrequent reviews that are happening. There are no set policies, structures, or processes to specifically look at FLN or specifically look at a set of programs, right? And that's something that we have to solve for rather than just curriculum or just learning sciences.
The problem is really a complex and an adaptive one. Let me talk about the solution in a really simplistic way. Everything looks great in the form of an equation, doesn't it? Learning science plus implementation science is equal to student learning outcome. Learning science is all about how children learn. What are those effective pedagogical practices that will change the learning outcomes? And implementation science, often overlooked, is really a complex one because this is implementation at scale. In a complex education system like ours, implementation science is really about balancing work. It's about how do you be directive as well as how do you build ownership at that local level. How do you have really good systems, processes, and policies in place? And the plus in between is a super critical one because it's about systems thinking and co-creation to integrate both of these things. And what does this really look like on the ground? For our teachers, it looks like they are in part of workshops, online courses, and peer learning spaces to learn about pedagogical practices like shared reading. For our teacher mentors, it's really about upskilling them on classroom observations and coaching skills. For the system, it's about driving data-driven decision-making and conducting effective review meetings. It's also about creating really good processes, policies, and structures. In the last 2 years, using this approach, we've been able to see some really encouraging results. And I would really like to point out to a couple of those. I feel really proud to be able to influence 15 policies which are now part of the system. And we've been able to unlock more than $330,000 from the government, which is a great testament for us about their ownership in this initiative. And here are some glimpses of change that we are seeing at each level. Things like this is something that is really keeping me going.
Yeah, thanks, Mayuresh. And I know that we have not transformed anything. All of those are glimpses of encouraging impact that we're seeing. And we've been really fortunate to do this across 5 states. We've run large-scale teacher development programs, classroom observation programs, FLN programs, and we've learned a lot in the process. And we've also grown very fast as a team. We are more than 140 members. We've been very fortunate to be supported by very, very close government partnerships, because all of the things we spoke about are all government programs. They are not branded as LFE. We are not the front end. We are really capacitating the government to lead from the front. And we've also managed to unlock multilateral funding, corporate philanthropy, as well as family foundations. And we're very grateful to all of the support that we've been getting. And which brings us to today. Right, we've had interesting conversations in the panel about supporting the middle tier, supporting the tier above, unlocking government partnerships, and that's something that we've been really fortunate enough to do. And the invitation right now and the clarity which we have is we want to expand this work into 3 more districts across Maharashtra and Haryana, and we want to reach 1.5 million children, and at a cost much lesser than the What Works Hub figure that was quoted for $4.8. We are very confident that an investment of $1 per child of $1.5 million across 3 years will really help us get there. And we also want to deepen our evidence generation. Cleo spoke about less research coming. We've in fact worked on similar research, and we want to continue contributing to the international discourse around implementation science for FLN and how we can upskill and support the middle tier officials. And that's where we are. We invite partnerships, collaboration, support, and funding to help strengthen the public education systems in India, 1 district at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. My name is Yuri Skipper. I work with Twaweza East Africa, and I represent the KiuFunza team. KiuFunza is a teacher performance pay program in Tanzania, and so is teacher earning equals students learning. So let me explain that. So we are different from many of the programs that you've seen here. We don't do any teacher training. In our analysis, our fundamental analysis is, in the words of the World Development Report 2018, no amount of training or inputs can substitute for teacher motivation. So it's really teacher motivation is key, and in our view, teacher incentives, and incentives are a big lever that needs to be used more in order to reach the learning outcomes that we're all looking for. And just to illustrate how important teacher motivation is, if you lack teacher motivation, you're going to see a big teacher classroom absence. And so we see this in a lot of African countries. In Tanzania, 56% of the duty teachers are absent from their classroom 30 minutes after the start of the school day. And this is based on a number of high quality studies across the 2010s. Now, that's of course a huge HR problem, and it's also a huge fiscal problem. And so we deeply believe that this is connected to the high levels of learning poverty that we see in Tanzania, but also in other countries. Surprisingly, there is little international support for teacher incentives, and so we are really calling on that to change. So what do? KiuFunza works with public school systems to link teacher rewards to student learning outcomes. And these rewards are financial, they are small, and they are also strictly supportive. They're strictly positive, so there's no downside for the teachers, but it's important that they're small. And what we want with these incentives is to make teachers every day, day in, day out in their classroom, see the value of student learning outcomes. And so at the end of the day, we want to make teachers own the learning mission. Our incentive design is called Pay by Skill. Tanzania is the first country in the world that has ever tried this, and we're now scaling it up. And this is how it works. We pay teachers in grades 1, 2, and 3, so where FLN is taught, We pay them for every student in their classroom, but only if those students have gained some basic skills. And so the more skills kids in those classrooms have earned, the more the teacher can earn. So the program is very simple. We, at the start of the school year, we onboard, we explain or confirm the message. At the end of the year, we come back, we measure student skills. Our teams do that. And then we go back, we calculate the earnings, we pay the teachers, and we provide them with a report on their performance. So our edge, our strong points are first, a laser focus on FLN, so purely looking at early grade foundational skills. Second, we have constant, positive, significant impact on learning across several randomized trials. We have low cost, meaning we have one of the highest impacts per dollar in the world. Our program is also equitable by design. And what do we mean when we say equitable? We are focusing our support on that part of the primary education where the most important job in the world is being done, which is teaching FLN. But also in Africa, that job is being done in one of the most difficult teaching circumstances in the world, meaning these huge, oversized classrooms. So that is really where we think we should focus. It's also very easy to adopt our program, and that's an important part for any program. If it's difficult to do, it's going to be very difficult to also make it bigger. And so for teachers, it's very easy to join, it's very easy to understand our program. We don't tell them that they're not doing the right thing. We don't tell them they should do something else. We know they've been trained. We just challenge them to do what they're already doing, to do it more intensively. And so sixth is, we believe it's a missing ingredient in education systems. Education systems have a lot of things. They have schools, they have teacher salaries, they have big investments in training and learning. But what is missing is that connection for the teacher personally with the learning outcomes. And so we want to translate that from the system level to the classroom level. Our program is rooted in evidence. We've been fortunate. We've had 3 large-scale RCTs led by JPEL. These are nationally representative. We saw foundational learning gains across the board, meaning boys, girls, for female teachers, for male teachers, in low-performing schools, in high-performing schools. Our impacts are large. So recently we had 0.4 standard deviation impact on learning. And because we also have a low cost per student, we are in the GAP Best Buys category, and we're more cost effective than 80% of the studies that show this data. We're also looking at long-term effects, and we're seeing some encouraging signs there. We have done this a lot. We have done this across Tanzania so far. We've paid over $1 million USD in bonuses. More than 300,000 kids have learned more. We've done this across Tanzania. We have high approval ratings from the teachers, so they approve of both of the ID, which is, they get more money. That is clear. But also they trust us in the implementation. They believe it's a fair program. Teacher voices, we have a lot of stories. I'm going to read you one. Teachers in schools that participate. This is in Eugenia from a school on the coast in Pwani. Teachers in schools that participated in KiuFunza demonstrated more love for their students. And that's important because we also see that in our quantitative data that something is changing in the classroom as reported by students. I'm going to skip our goal a bit because of time. So we want to have 10 million young learners. We want them to be supported by systems that measure FLN outcomes. This is our beautiful team. Many of them are very experienced, going back to the days of Twaweza, where we use similar types of assessment. These are our beautiful partners and funders, currently funded by Hempel and Vodacom, but of course, the more the merrier. So if you are interested in this story, join our mission. We are looking for ambitious long-term funding partners that can see KiuFunza grow within Tanzania, but also across borders in Africa. And we're looking for also for implementation partnerships to develop powerful combination treatments where, for example, we think that there is a role for teacher incentives to fast-track pedagogy programs. Thank you.
Last but definitely not least, please give a round of applause to Valentine and the team from EIDU.
Thank you, Jennifer. Can you hear me okay? Thank you, everyone. My name is Valentine Joroge. I am the partnerships lead at EIDU. You've heard a little bit about what we do from my brilliant colleague Lillian, who was on the fantastic panel this morning. But I'm going to take you through a little bit more of what we do at EIDU. So our motto is, or our mantra is unlocking potential. To contextualize that a little bit, Ashti touched upon this yesterday, and Dr. Kigia talked about this a little bit this morning as well. But the global learning crisis is still staggering. To contextualize this a little bit more, only 3 in 10 children can read by the age of 10. This is compared to 9 out of 10 children in high-income countries. So what this means is that 1 billion children, 90% of the world, are basically being denied the opportunity to reach their full potential. So what are we doing to solve for this? So EIDU has created a government-integrated digital learning platform that rapidly improves learning outcomes. So what we do is empower governments to transform their education systems. So this sounds fantastic and very techy. So I'm going to take you through what this actually means in practice. So our solution, we know that there is evidence of what works for foundational literacy and numeracy. However, a lot of these solutions tend to be small, fragmented, and resource-intensive to deliver. So what we're trying to do at EIDU, or what we are doing at EIDU, is thoughtfully integrating technology into building a comprehensive system that addresses the needs of all the key stakeholders within education. So we're talking about students, teachers, up to the Ministry of Education, and providing that infrastructure to digitize the entirety of the education system. What does this mean in the classroom? So in the classroom, we look at structured pedagogy and digitalized personalized learning, so DPL. So SP for us is targeted towards the teachers to support the teachers in the classroom. So what we have are digitalized lesson plans that are aligned with the local curriculum. So what I need to emphasize here is for our applications inside of the classroom, our SP and DPL approaches are always integrated with the national curriculum. This is a key and our first step to government integration. So we support the teachers to be able to effectively teach by having these lesson plans digitized and also having the trainings and the coachings as well provided on the platform. What we've done to innovate in structured pedagogy is that we're working with Google towards AI-generated remedial lesson plans. So in the short of it, and we can talk about this more for those who are interested in AI, is that we have effectively built an offline compatible AI tutor. So we are able to identify, using AI, struggling learners, to intelligently group them, and then to develop lesson plans that the teachers are using. So we piloted this in Kenya from 2024, and the results have been really impressive to us as well. So we've seen that the struggling learners are able to catch up in just 12 weeks. So we are currently in the process of validating this impact with JPAL, and we're going to be rolling out further in 2026. So when it comes to students, we have personalized digital exercises that are adaptive. So for most of you in the room, you know about teaching at the right level. So that is a solution that we're integrating here, basically. This is also in combination with continuous digital assessments. So basically the ones that you're familiar with, EGMA, EGRA, lesson specific, and these provide real-time data on learning impact. Applications outside of the classroom. Oh, sorry, do I get mic? Applications outside of the classroom, we have our government officers who tend to be our trainers. As Lillian spoke about this morning, we still have a cascade model of training of trainers. So what the government officers are able to get from the EIDU platform is real-time data. So they get data on the usage in the classroom, the engagement, and learning for all levels. There's also digital support tools for trainings and coachings as well. Our ministries of education, we're providing for them a growing suite of dashboards on enrollment. They can see data on attendance in the classrooms that helps them make data-driven decision-making. And this also allows easy collection of any data from any of the stakeholders. So what does this mean in terms of our impact? So we are RCT validated via the EdTech Hub. And the RCT showed learning gains of 0.53 standard deviation in in layman's terms, this means 1.5 years of schooling in just 1 year. So makes us one of the top 10% of education interventions globally, something that we are extremely proud of. But we are proud of this also because this particularly targets the slowest 10% of children and benefits all children equitably. So we have gender equity, boys and girls are both benefiting from using our platform, and we're seeing significant results after just 6 months. Our scale. We're currently supporting about 700,000 learners in 4 countries. Our biggest country at the moment is Kenya, where we started. As Lillian told you, we started in Mombasa, and now we're covering 10,000 schools in Kenya. We're in 32 out of the 47 counties, and we work directly with the county government. So this number should be updated, but it's about 50% of all public schools in Kenya and 600,000 learners. We're also growing fast in Nigeria as of 2024. And we're targeting 100,000 learners by the end of 2025. We're conducting a small pilot in Pakistan to also test for that market as well. And we're in Karachi and working with the state government there as well. And we recently are very proud that we launched a pilot in Rwanda with UNICEF. Angaza Elimu, who are also in the room, are also on that pilot as well. And we're looking forward to scaling that further. So basically our vision is that every child can realize their full potential. And our ambition are grand, but we do believe that sustainable scale and impact are only possible through government ownership. So every year, as you can see, we have grown exponentially. So 2.5 times annual average growth rate. How we've done this is by remaining highly cost-effective and evidence-backed. For those who are interested in cost models, we can talk about this further. But in terms of cost-effectiveness, as Lillian mentioned, this is a key metric for us. So at the moment, we're looking at a long-term variable cost of under $5 per child per year, which is also something that Kio mentioned in terms of a targeted sort of amounts that governments can also afford. And in terms of our evidence-backed, we combine an approach of external validation, for instance, through the EdTech Hub, and also a continuous evidence generation system internally. So we prioritize implementation testing through A/B testing at all levels of our platform and of all of our components on the platform as well. So what we've learned with integrating both cost effectiveness and evidence is that governments are ready to re-envision education at the system level. But this means that we have to just center them and their ownership, and we have to lead with learning. So so that's it. I had to rush through this because I'm a bit of a yapper. So we're inviting you to scale our solution with us. As I mentioned, we're very ambitious. We're targeting 1.7 million learners by 2026. And as we said, there's growing government demand. In Kenya, we're hoping to reach all 47 counties. And in Nigeria, we're hoping to be even additional states by 2026. As I mentioned, you will be putting resources directly into learning at a very affordable and sustainable long-term implementation cost. And as I mentioned, we're also backed by leading partners such as the Founders Pledge, Google, where we're working on very closely on the AI front, and Gates Foundation as well. So we're based in Kenya, Nigeria, and Germany, and we continue to work with governments and communities across Africa. So reach out, and thank you.
Thank you, Valentine.